The rain fell on the gray moors, a steady, cold drizzle that seeped into the bones. The man walked with his head down, the collar of his coat turned up against the damp. Beside him, his dog, a large, shaggy creature of indeterminate breed named Finn, ranged through the heather, nose to the ground, tail a cheerful metronome against the gloom. The man's thoughts were as gray as the landscape, mundane and weary. He did not notice the strange scent that made Finn's head jerk up, the low whine that escaped his throat. The dog bounded off the path, a brown streak against the purple heather. "Finn, come back," the man called, his voice tired. But Finn did not come. The man sighed, his breath a pale mist, and trudged after the animal. He found Finn standing sentinel over a shallow, rain-filled ditch. At first, he thought it was a tangle of unusual fabric, a discarded prop from some film shoot. Then he saw the limb, too slender, ending in a hand with 4 long, delicate fingers. He scrambled down Dot. It was a girl. She was small, barely his chest height if she were standing. Her skin was the pale lavender of a twilight sky, smooth and seamless. She had no hair, but fine, silver tracings like circuitry glowed faintly beneath her skin at her temples. Her simple tunic was torn and stained with a substance that shimmered like oil on the puddle around her. She was alive, but her breaths were shallow hitches, and her large, obsidian eyes were half-lidded, unfocused. An alien. The realization was a cold shock, cutting through the everyday fog of his mind. He had seen the news reports, the distant announcements of cautious contact, but here it was, dying in a ditch on Earth. On his moor, Finn nudged her hand with his wet nose and whined again, looking at his human. The dog's instinct was pure, uncomplicated concern. It cut through the man's paralysis. He knelt, ignoring the icy water. "Hey," he said, his voice softer than he had used in years. "Can you hear me?" The obsidian eyes shifted, focusing on him with immense effort. Her lips, a darker shade of violet, parted. A sound emerged, not from her mouth, but a soft, pained chime that seemed to emanate from the silver tracings on her skin. The man was no hero, no soldier, no scientist. He was a quiet man with a quiet life. But he could not leave her. He shrugged off his heavy coat, wrapped it gently around her fragile form, and lifted her. She was startlingly light. Finn led the way back to the path, then to the road, and finally to the man's isolated stone cottage. He laid her on the sofa, stoked the fire, and fetched warm water and clean cloths. He knew nothing of alien biology, but the principles of shock and injury seemed universal. He cleaned the shimmering residue from a long, shallow gash on her arm. He made her drink small sips of water. He kept her warm. Finn stayed glued to her side, a living, breathing heater. For 3 days, she drifted in and out of consciousness. The man tended to her, spoke to her in calm, low tones about nothing in particular, about the rain, about Finn's antics, about the stubborn heather. He called in sick to work, his voice steady over the phone, betraying none of the profound strangeness in his living room. On the 4th morning, she was awake, propped on the pillows, watching him as he stirred porridge on the old stove. Her eyes were fully alert, vast and dark and intelligent. "You are the caretaker," she said. Her voice was not a chime, no, but spoken words, formed carefully in his language, with a melodic, breathy quality. He almost dropped the spoon. "You speak English. I accessed your global data networks while you slept. A simple linguistic download. My name is..." She produced a series of soft, fluting notes. "But in your concepts, it translates closest to Lily." "I'm David," he said, the ordinary name feeling absurd. "David," she repeated, testing it. "And the companion is Finn." She reached a slender hand and rested it on Finn's head. The dog thumped his tail on the floorboards. He found me. He summoned you. Your species bond is profound. It was the first clear signal in the chaos. Over simple food, she told him a little. Her ship, a small exploratory vessel, had suffered a catastrophic failure. She was the only survivor, ejecting in an escape pod that burned upon atmospheric entry. She had crawled from the wreckage into the ditch. My people will be searching, she said. But the interference in this system is considerable. It may take time. Time passed. Lily regained her strength with surprising speed. She was fascinated by the cottage, by fire, by rain, by the concept of books made of paper. She helped with chores, her movements precise and efficient. A quiet, focused companionship grew between them, mediated often by Finn, who adored her. One evening, as they sat by the fire, Lily looked at David with her serious dark eyes. You saved me. You asked for nothing. You protected me without knowing my intent, my people, our politics. This is a significant action. David shrugged, uncomfortable with the gravity. Anyone would have done the same. That is statistically and empirically false, she stated, without malice. But it is what you believe that matters. My people have a concept, a debt of essence, a life given, requiring a gift of equal value to the giver's nature. Not a transaction, but an alignment. David just smiled, not really understanding. You don't owe me anything, Lily. I'm just glad you're all right. 2 weeks later, the search party came. There was no dramatic landing in the village square. A craft, silent and sleek as a gray heron, settled on the moor behind the cottage. 2 figures emerged, tall and elegant like Lily, their skin tones shifting like mother of pearl. There was a reunion, soft chimes and fluid words. David stood back with Finn, feeling suddenly like an outsider in his own home. Lily spoke with her people for a long time. Finally, she came to him. I must go now. The analysis of our failure is required. David nodded, the weight of her departure settling on him. Of course. Be safe, she stepped closer. The debt of essence, David. I have analyzed your nature. You are a guardian, a quiet protector. You value this, she gestured to the cottage, the moor beyond the window. Your solitude, your peace. And you value Finn. Before he could respond, she bent and placed her hand not on David, but on Finn's head. Her silver tracings flared with a gentle light. Finn sat still, a low, happy rumble in his chest. The light faded. What did you do? David asked, a thread of concern in his voice. I have harmonized his biology. His lifespan is now aligned with yours. He will age in concert with you. You will not lose him to time. This was the gift required. A guardian deserves his companion. David was struck silent. He looked at Finn, who yawned and licked Lily's hand. It was not treasure, not technology, not a promise of power. It was a gift of time, of continued love, the one thing he would have never dared to ask for, the deepest secret wish of his solitary heart. Tears he did not bother to hide welled in his eyes. Thank you, he whispered, the words utterly insufficient. Lily's dark eyes seemed to soften. The gratitude is mine, David. You showed me that humanity's greatness is not in its noise or its might. It is in the quiet act of a man following his dog into the rain. It is an unasked for kindness. My people will know of this. We will remember. She turned and walked towards the waiting craft with her people. At the ramp, she looked back once, lifting a hand in farewell. Then the door sealed, and the craft rose from the moor with a whisper of displaced air. Vanishing into the low clouds dot, the cottage was very quiet. The fire crackled. David sank into his chair, overwhelmed. Finn came over and laid his big head on David's knee, his brown eyes full of their usual simple devotion, now holding a promise of decades more. David stroked the dog's head, feeling the impossible truth of it. On the moor, the heather endured. In the cottage, the silence was no longer empty, but filled with a profound and unexpected gift. The man had saved a life. The alien had repaid him not with starships or secrets, but with more of the simple, earthly love that had prompted the rescue in the first place. Outside, the rain stopped, and a single shaft of sunlight broke through the clouds, illuminating the ditch where it had all begun, a place where the universe had, for a moment, become small, and kind, and very, very personal.